Welcome to today's conversation on coaching for productivity. Quick housekeeping, lots of great people on the call, and a really great mix. Some of you are coaches, some of you are thinking about becoming coaches, some of you work internally with your organization. So welcome to each and every one of you. To let all of you know, each month we do a 30-minute program. It is primarily targeted for organizations and coaching programs inside of organizations. Every other month, we do a free 60-minute program, and those calls are primarily targeted for coaches who are in business. So having said that, I'm going to ask your input, and whether you do it in the question panel here or are willing to email me outside of this, please do. We are exploring the possibility of having a call once a month for all of our graduates to join free of charge, talking about the business side of coaching and marketing yourself as a coach. And that's just going to be available to all graduates. We are also talking about doing a call once a month. And what we would do is have you pay a flat fee, and you can attend as many as you want during the course of the year. We'll have them at least monthly. And those calls will be focused on developing your coaching skills further. So the interest I have in hearing from you is, what do you think of those ideas? So love to hear from you in email or in the question panel here. And thank you for that. Now, having set that up, the question panel, please do type in your questions. It's a quick 30 minutes, got some content to cover, of course, and at the same time, definitely want to make sure that we're answering whatever it is you want to know out of this. So we're talking coaching for productivity, and we're talking coaching programs inside of the workplace. The agenda for the conversation today, and by the way, yes, I do have something for you at the end of the call, so hopefully you're hanging around and waiting for that. We will start out defining and differentiating coaching, because what we're finding with internal coaching programs is it's still a challenge to know what coaching is. There's so much misinformation out there. Then we will talk productivity and best practices. So a quick look at information available in terms of what those are. And then, of course, we're going to talk about what that means as far as coaching goes. We will go through a few quick statistics on the impact of coaching, that ROI that companies care about so much. We'll talk about the opportunities for applying coaching, and then, of course, share resources with you. So first off, defining and differentiating coaching. And let's have a little fun with this. We're going to take a slightly different approach in today's conversation in terms of how we do this. So first off, we're going to define a manager. What is a manager in the workplace? Pulled up dictionary.com, and here's what I found. A manager is a person who has the control. They're in charge of setting that direction in terms of where they're going for the business or part of that. So the manager has that responsibility, and they have the ultimate say-so in the direction. Well, how is that different from coaching? A manager is the person who is responsible to define and then also assign what has to be done. So what's a coach? It's different in coaching in that the coach is the person who is going to empower the other. So instead of the coach deciding, they put that individual in charge of deciding. How does that come about in the workplace? Because there are a lot of managers who are developing coaching skills. How do they do that, and how do they make it work? So yes, as a manager, they still have that responsibility for defining the direction and giving direction, and then the opportunity for the application of the coaching skills is talking to the employee. Okay, what is it you want to gain from this work? How do you want to do it? What are your ideas for being more effective? And then giving them the freedom to do it in a way that works for them. There's more than one answer. And of course, the manager being comfortable with the skill set of the employee and saying, how do you want to get it done, as long as they get to that end result, is huge in terms of the engagement of that individual and, yes, of course, the productivity we're talking about. So now let's go to mentor. What's a mentor? Back to dictionary.com. And on dictionary.com, what do they say about mentors? They say a mentor is a wise and trusted counselor or teacher. And a mentor is an influential senior sponsor or supporter. Having a mentor is awesome. This is somebody who's going to give you all kinds of wisdom. So how is it different from coaching? A mentor passes on their wisdom. They pass on their experience, and they also help you with your connections, the whole networking side of it. What does a coach do? A coach is going to ask you for ideas, ask you for solutions, ask you for strategies. The coach is about empowering you for your growth and also supporting change. So how does that apply in the workplace? Many workplaces have mentor programs, and they're fabulous because you do want to pass on the intellectual capital, if you will, of the mentors, the ones who have been around for a while. Is it possible to do both? Yes, of course. It is important to differentiate the two, because when you have a mentoring relationship, you really do want the mentor giving advice, making recommendations, etc. And it's a good thing. When you have a coach, you want it to be a different conversation. The coach is asking the questions and challenging that person to think. And very often, you'll have mentors who apply coaching skills. So they start out by sharing their information, and then they shift into asking that individual the questions. This is also true when you have training going on, because when you're training people, you're providing information. And then when you do coaching as a follow-up, you're asking people, how are you going to use that information? What's your plan for applying it and moving it forward? So it's fabulous in terms of marrying the two different skill sets and opportunities. So then what exactly is a coach? Well, whether it's executive, career, business, life, or health and wellness, the coach is a strategic partner. Very specifically, the coach empowers the client, and the client is the one who clarifies their own goals. The client creates the action plans. The client moves past obstacles, and it's about the client achieving what they choose. So how are the two different? When you have someone who is managing or mentoring, okay, let's go through, I call it the 3 A's. So the first A is a manager or a mentor is supposed to assess. That's part of what their job. What's going on? How's it working? And they're sitting back and doing that. They're analyzing outcomes and opportunities. And then ultimately, the manager or the mentor is advising. So they're saying very specifically, this is what we want it to be. This is how we want it to be happening. And that's part of their job. Now, what is a coach? The coaches have the P's. So the first P is the coach is a partner. Now, here's something that's very significantly different, because when you have a manager or a mentor, they're the senior person, if you will. They're the expert. When we say a coach is a partner, we're on equal footing, equal ground here. We're working together. It's a collaborative effort. Instead of a coach giving advice, what they're going to do is create the opportunity for perspective. Sometimes it's by having you explore. Sometimes it's by joining a brainstorm with you. And then the coach focuses on the possibilities. What do you want it to be? And from there, developing your plan for how you're going to get there. So key differences between managing, mentoring, and coaching. Now let's move into the productivity side of it. And as we do this, think about those differences and what it means in terms of managing, in terms of productivity. So first off, if you go online and do a search, here are some great articles that came up in Cron. They talk about one of the best practices in productivity is going to be the significance. Employees want to know that what they're doing makes a difference, that it matters, it counts, they are significant in the workplace. Praise makes a difference, and that's a tough one. Some of us love hearing the praise. Some of us feel uncomfortable hearing the praise. So it's knowing how they want to hear it and giving the praise to them effectively. Having goals makes a difference. And of course, ownership of those goals is going to be a huge part of the productivity. So when people know what they're working towards specifically and they have ownership in that, you're going to have a higher level of productivity. And then the rewards. And yeah, sometimes money works and sometimes it's other rewards. Back to the whole idea of the significance, the praise, the opportunities, etc. So that's from Cron. Now, eJob description, I thought they had a great article on productivity. I was surprised by the source for that because where they're at, it was a different focus. And their article was right on. So first off, productivity means developing that strong team orientation. The concept of the goals from the Cron article. It's about aligning roles and performance objectives. Who's doing what and how does that support us moving forward, knowing how they're participating. Then, yes, setting those performance goals and all of the management being done with that particular focus. Hey, this is what we're moving toward and keeping that in the forefront. Evaluate people based on defined objectives and goals, and evaluate outcomes based on defined objectives and goals. Now, Inc. magazine also had a great article on productivity best practices. So they talked about, first off, as an introduction, that engagement is very specifically tied to business outcomes. You've got to have the engagement to get the productivity. Then they went on to say, get the engagement first and then hire. And that meant, hey, the engagement starts before they're actually in the job. It starts when you're doing that recruiting and interviewing process. Then in the article, they review the culture component because the organization culture makes a difference. Is this where people do talk and interact and are actively supporting each other? Is it a positive culture, or is it one that's really shutting people down and turning them off? Obviously, that's going to make a difference. The recognition and rewards comes up again, recognizing people for what they're doing. They bring in communication and connection. This is huge. Do people know what's going on? Are they clear on what their role is? Are they very aware of how it's all connected and working together? And are they connected and working together? And it leads into the participation and performance and recognizing that. So great insights online on productivity. So these are a few. There are many more. They seem to do a really good job of summarizing those key pieces. So now let's talk about the impact of coaching. We're saying we want to improve productivity and we're going to use coaching to do it. Well, Denison University says coaching is the #1 tool of choice for organizational development. It definitely applies. What is the impact of coaching? And I know some of you have seen these numbers. That's okay. It's always fun to hear them, right? So Fortune magazine, they looked at business coaching, and what they did specifically is look at a number of the different return on investment research studies. So Metrics Global, Manchester Inc., there's a lot of them out there. And here's what they said in summary of that. Managers describing an average return of 6 times what the coaching cost their company, a 600% return on investment on average. And so in coaching, of course, we recognize that's exciting. It's really exciting. And you look at that and you go, how can you not have coaching? Now, of course, what's essential is when you have coaching that you're doing it well and you're doing it effectively, that it really is coaching instead of, for example, mentoring and calling it coaching or managing and calling it coaching isn't going to have the same result. So knowing that it's coaching. Now, another great statistic that you probably don't see as often, and I think this one is incredible because it really is a bottom line sales number. Triad Performance Technologies studied coaching, and they looked at sales managers in telecommunications. So to get that 1,000% return on investment on a quantitative study, that's incredible because all of the other studies bring in all those qualitative measures, and they can be really challenging. How do you measure some of the qualitative impact? This one's great in terms of the focus on the quantitative. Now, back to the whole idea of engaging productivity, and think also about those articles we were just talking about. So when you have that training, according to Public Personnel Management, you increase productivity by 22.4%. So that training is the providing information. That training can happen through managing, it can happen through mentoring, and that's giving people the information. When you add coaching to the training, you get an 88% gain in productivity. That's phenomenal, 88%. So we know that coaching makes a difference for productivity because it's about the ownership. It's putting the client in charge of what it is they want. Now, I did receive an email from one of you ahead of time asking me a question tied to this for today's conversation. And it was ways of following up beyond what clients say they want in their initial meeting. So, of course, I'm missing some information here. The bottom line is when we coach somebody, we start out, yes, with what we call an introductory meeting, an exploration, and it's usually an abbreviation of any coaching engagement. And then we have what we call an opening session, where it's this big picture exploration in terms of goals and objectives. And what's important in that big picture exploration is exploring what they want in different areas. And the reason that's significant goes back to what's behind this question. So first off, goals in one area influence goals in another area. For example, if you have a manager that wants to develop skills, some of their professional skills, whether it's public speaking, whether it is their communication skills, etc., that is going to influence their outcomes in other goal areas. For example, if they say, I want to develop my skills as a public speaker, and then perhaps they have another goal of getting a promotion, well, that public speaking is going to help them because it gives them a chance for visibility and stepping out there, and it's going to increase their opportunities for getting the promotion. If a manager wants to work on communication skills, for example, and another one of their goals is to increase talent retention numbers, that's going to make a difference because the communication skills make a difference in retaining the talent. So exploring their goals in all the different areas, number one, because they're influencing factors. They work together. And number two, back to your question, is when you know what they want in all the different areas, you have a better idea of where their priorities are and of the various areas in which they want to focus and work, so that when you are working with them, there are multiple things that come into it, and that helps in terms of the clarity. So to go beyond one goal means having that big picture exploration. Now, I think another part of this, and some of this is how I read the question, is when you have people that you are coaching, that accountability factor. So you want to give them control on how often you're meeting, etc. Well, if you say schedule it when you're ready, chances are it's going to get pushed back time and again. if you go ahead and get it scheduled, even when they're the ones choosing when they want to do it, you're more likely to actually have it scheduled and do it. So it's very, very important to be specific on when you're getting together and how often. So very good question. Hope that answered. Please feel free to ask the follow-up questions on that. Just type them into that question panel. So thank you for that. Okay. Moving now into opportunities for application of coaching. And that's one of the fun things about coaching. It works everywhere we go. Anytime you're having conversations with people, there is opportunity for application of coaching skills. So when we talk about coaching, to be more specific, some of the areas include what we call business coaching. We do career coaching. Coaching is growing fast in the education arena. For HR professionals, coaching is considered a sub-competency. Organization development professionals are using coaching as a tool for their work. Talent development professionals, coaching is a core competency. It's an opportunity in terms of leadership. For consulting work, life coaching is a big area people are talking about, and a lot of work happening with health and wellness coaching. So it is absolutely across the board in terms of opportunities, application, etc. Now, digging in further, you have internal coaching programs. For those of you that are working with an internal coaching program, by the way, there's a great white paper available to you on starting and running an internal coaching program with lots of examples, etc. So you can access that on our website, Center for Coaching Solutions, or if you email me, I'll be happy to share it with you in a PDF format. So the internal coaching program is a big deal in the corporate space. When you look at all the big companies, they've all got coaching programs. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry and profession. It's amazing what's happening there, and it goes back to those studies on the return on investment. Internal coaching, by definition, by the way, to clarify for you, thank you for that question, is when the coaches are employees of the company. They are internal. The program is being run and managed by employees. Now, external coaching is somebody who is in business as a coach, whether it's an individual or it's a company of coaches, a firm, for example, and they do provide what's called external coaching services. They're hired from outside of the company to coach individuals. Now, of course, another common thing is to have a combination of the two. And we've done some of our 30-minute programs on this topic. The best practices, according to American Management Association, is to have internal coaches for entry-level to mid-level management, and then have external coaches for the highest levels of management. The reason for that, internal coaches, of course, are more cost-effective for the organization. The external coaches, of course, gives you more room in terms of the confidentiality, and also in terms of some of those higher-level executives really engaging in the process and being comfortable with it. So opportunities in all different spaces for that. Now, what do you do with it? Well, coaching is an opportunity to improve engagement. Whether you're coaching individuals or you're coaching a group of people, it's a focus on, hey, what do you want and how are you going to get there, so people engage with what's happening. Coaching is used to improve skills. What skills do they want to develop? And then the coach is partnering with them in terms of how they're doing it. And of course, it improves the focus and the motivation of individuals. So, great opportunities there. I'm going to expand further. What exactly is productivity anyway? So let's go back to dictionary.com again. And it talks about productivity being the quality, state, or fact of being able to generate, create, enhance, or bring forth goods and services. That focus on the goods and services. Well, what does coaching do and how does that tie? Coaching focuses on the individuals who bring forth the goods and the services. So they go hand in hand. You're coaching the individual on their focus, their motivation, their information, their process, their skills to truly empower them on generating, creating, and enhancing. So these work together. Now, if you go at it from a purely practical standpoint, this is just fun. Think about this for a moment. Consider it for yourself. How well does it work when you tell people the answer? Think about it. You've all had a really good friend. You get together, you tell them something's going on, and they give you great advice. And you're, yeah, that's great advice. Thank you. And then do you do it? Probably not. Or you've all seen where they bring in the high-priced analyst or consultant, and that person provides a great plan, and guess what? It sits on the shelf and collects dust because they didn't know what they didn't know. They weren't the people involved. We are missing the ownership and the buy-in to it. Ultimately, it makes a difference when people develop it themselves. So think about it. When employees are invited to choose how they're going to improve their performance, what's the difference? How does that work? And it's huge because when you ask that employee how they're going to do it, they're going to come up with ideas. They are the one doing the work. They know it better than anyone else. And it's fabulous because when they get to give the idea, you have the ownership and the engagement with it, which leads to the productivity. What happens when employees are empowered to create positive change? Ask them, what do you want it to be? How do you want it to be? And this supports productivity, it supports culture, everything that's going on. And when you think back to those articles on best practices for coaching, it pulls out every piece of it. Okay, I recognize we have just a few minutes left. So very quickly, resources for you. The International Coach Federation, that is a nonprofit professional membership organization that is all about coaching and the quality of coaching. They have a code of ethics, they have standards, they have competencies. Center for Coaching Certification offering training on the coaching, and then the Center for Coaching Solutions, which is a coaching firm offering either support in starting and running your own program or providing those external coaches. The websites for each of these, the International Coach Federation is at coachfederation.org, the Center for Coaching Certification.com, and then centerforcoachingsolutions.com. Now, I offered something for you. I'm going to get there very quickly. I do want to let you know we've got a blog available, a new article every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Check us out. Subscribe to us there. We publish a book once a year with chapters written by graduates of the coaching certification, and it's so great to get the different perspectives and the expertise of the people involved in this. And then, of course, as we mentioned earlier, our free webinars. If you're on our newsletter email list, you're hearing about them, we also post them on the website. I do want to offer to you now, if you want to call or you want an email, we're available to do that. And I'm going to give you an easy way to set up a call if you want. The Center for Coaching Solutions is available for consulting on starting and running a coaching program, providing training for your coaches, and then, of course, the external coaches for those of you that want that. So the gift I have for you is a free 30 minutes. So whether you want to have a conversation, ask more questions, dig in deeper on something's going on for you, you're facing a challenge, whatever it is, that's what that's available for. If you want to take advantage of that free 30 minutes, after today's webinar, I'm going to email all of you a link to the recording on our YouTube channel. You can reply to that email and ask me for it, and I'll let you know how to take advantage of that. Your next step, of course, is choosing the resources that apply for you and working toward achieving those results. Thank you very much, each and every one of you, for being here. I appreciate your time and the privilege of sharing this conversation with you. We have used our 30 minutes, so I do realize most of you have things scheduled and are going. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And thank you for the thanks in the question panel. I appreciate that as well. Looking forward to being of service and connecting with you. So have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thank you.